Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Social Justice. Welcome to Monday morning, everyone's favorite morning of the week. Maybe not. Good weekend? Yeah? Online people, good weekend? Thumbs up, thumbs down? Maybe okay? You can tell me how your weekend is in an emoji if you like.
Not good.
No luck with the, not yet? Oh man. Yeah?
The Empress is not picking up the phone.
They're not picking up the phone?
The reception is down.
Oh boy, okay.
They're not responding to the email.
Okay. So you have, so I guess do you have any other ID?
Yeah, I have the MSP, I have the study permit.
Oh yeah.
And I'm soon getting the BCID, so it's okay.
Okay. Well, that's good at least. So you'll have some identification at least, right? And you probably have some time to work on the passport thing, right? But yeah, that sucks. Yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah. Rafay, how was your weekend?
It was very fun.
It was very fun?
Yeah.
Oh, did you do the...
Yeah.
Yeah? Went on all the rides?
All the rides.
All the stuff?
Except the coaster, it was closed. So the roller coaster was closed, the elevation was closed. The one where you said it goes up and down.
Okay.
And the water slide was closed.
And the what?
The water slide, the one where you sit on the log and then it goes down.
Oh, okay.
Otherwise, like, apart from that, all were open.
Went on all of them? What was the best one?
The beast.
The Beast?
Yeah.
What happened?
So it's basically like an umbrella.
Mm-hmm.
An umbrella flipped down. A flipped umbrella.
Okay.
So you sit on it, it goes like top, and then like this. Like a pendulum.
Oh, okay. So you're sitting in the bottom?
Yeah.
And it just
goes
goes...
like super quick. It doesn't go 360, it goes like to the top.
Yeah.
And then it comes down and then goes.
Oh, okay.
And it went like really fast.
Yeah. Yeah, there's one, I went on one that was in Edmonton, but it wasn't an umbrella, it looked like a pirate ship kind of thing, and so it went all the way up and then, yeah, really fun.
So like, Nicholas was sitting next to me, and there were some other people sitting on the opposite side, so they could see each other. And he's afraid of heights.
Oh, yeah.
So when we went on top, he was like screaming, like someone robbed him or something. So I couldn't have a better look at Nicholas, but then I could just hear him scream, while the other guy sitting on the opposite side, he had a better look.
Oh, yeah.
So when we got down, he's like, brother, are you okay? It looked like you lost your soul in the air because you went like this.
Oh, no. Oh, poor guy. Well, they're terrifying. I mean, that's their job, right? That sounds like fun. Okay, so let's see. So Reza's here. Good morning, Reza. Basil's here. Good morning. Elizabeth is here. Good morning, Elizabeth. Basil's here. Good morning, Basil. Sean is here. Hello, Sean. Hamad is here. Good morning to you. Simran is here. Good morning, Simran. And I think Basil had a good weekend. Thumbs up anyway. Okay, awesome. Hello, everyone, and let's begin. So how'd the quiz go on Friday? Okay? Yeah? Felt what you expected? Okay, that's good. Okay, let's try and reorient ourselves here. So we had just finished watching the T Word, right? The documentary talking to all of those trans youth. And we were talking about the idea that, we have these gender roles that, we've created gender roles that we socialize people into, right? We've created an idea of what a man is and what a woman is. We teach men to be men, we teach women to be women. But of course, a lot of what happens around those rules and those roles is socially constructed, right? Some of those things are based in biology. Of course, men and women are biologically different in ways that I don't think I have to explain to you. But there's a lot of other things that go along with being one gender or the other. And again, those are rules that a culture creates for itself. And again, the way in which we decide who follows what rule is based on our physical bodies, right? But again, for transgender people, they have a gender identity that is not aligned with their physical body, right? So society is trying to get them to follow a certain set of rules, and of course transgender people are saying, no, you've got me wrong. These are the rules that I should be following, right? This is the gender in which I fit, even though my body says otherwise, right? And so we met, I think, maybe 6 or 7 young trans people. They talked, of course, about their experience and how they learned that they were a transgender person, some of the struggles that they face. Yeah, so we answered all these questions. Good morning. We answered all these questions here, talking about I think these questions kind of talk to, aspects of socialization, aspects of, barriers that these people, that trans people face, and why they might be subject to discrimination or bullying or harassment or violence. But what I wanted to do today is kind of flex our critical thinking skills and our argument skills. And I want to zero in on one question in particular, number 5, okay? Now, number 5 may seem like kind of the most mundane of these questions, but a couple years ago in Canada, it was not a mundane issue. And it was not a mundane issue because of this guy here. Does anyone know who this is? Never heard of him? No? Okay. Well, he kind of had a bit of a moment in terms of the media a few years ago. Things have quieted down a bit for him now. He recently overcame an addiction to painkillers, and so I think he's just sort of reestablishing his public presence now. But anyway, a few years ago, let's say 5 years ago, nobody had really ever heard of this guy. Okay, so as you can see here, he's a professor of psychology at University of Toronto. Most Canadian universities are kind of mostly on the same kind of level. University of Toronto's kind of got a bit of history, right? It's an older university, so it's a little more prestigious than maybe some of the others. But so he's at the university, he's a reasonably big deal. I'm sure, but unless you had taken one of his classes, you probably wouldn't know who this guy was. Until, again, a few years ago, when we had a situation where, he and the university got into a bit of a conflict, okay? And here's what happened. The university sent around a memo, right? And what it said is that, in light of all of these discussions that are happening around people of different genders, right? So transgender people, gender queer, gender fluid people. Because of all this, because we're having these conversations and we want to create an accepting and a safe environment, please use, the pronouns that people ask you to use, right? So in the T word, if someone like Shane says, hey, please use he and him pronouns for me, you should do so. And so this is the university sending out this letter to all of their employees, teachers, and people who work in the admin office and everything, saying, look, please use the pronouns that people ask you to use. So far, so good? Okay. Simple request, right? No big deal, right? Big deal for Jordan Peterson, okay? He sent a letter back and he said that, in fact, no, he would not be using these pronouns, okay? And so this created a little bit of a stir, a conflict between Jordan Peterson here, between the University of Toronto, and between students who were kind of trying to support LGBTQ students on campus, right? So there was a bit of a conflict around it. And what I want to do today is just explore that conflict and figure out why he why he doesn't want to use these pronouns, why we should or shouldn't, right? Should we believe his argument or not? And just kind of pull it apart, right? Pull this issue apart, and again, look at the arguments that are being offered on both sides. Okay? So, just as a quick review, remember, critical thinking is about assessing the beliefs that we have, right? The things that we think are true. And again, that's important, right? The things that you believe to be true will affect the choices that you make. So, it's worth examining those things. Again, we should only believe things, religion aside, we should only believe things that give us good reason to believe those things in the first place, right? And so what we're talking about here is evaluating arguments that have, sorry, I'm just going to jump ahead a little bit because you've seen all this. Evaluating arguments that have a clear conclusion, something the person wants us to believe, and clear premises, right? Good supporting reasons why we should believe this thing, okay? So, right, conclusion and premises. So this is what we'll do. There's a short article here that I've pulled from, I believe, the Globe and Mail. Short article I pulled from the Globe and Mail. And it kind of describes both sides of the issue. But you'll have to do a little extra work here, I'm afraid, because it doesn't say, okay, this is what one side is arguing, this is what another side is arguing. You're going to have to piece it together because the pieces of the puzzle are kind of scattered throughout the article. So, So you'll have to kind of look for them. But there will be kind of two sides here. Jordan Peterson will be making an argument about why he shouldn't have to use these gender pronouns. Whoops, I think I gave away the conclusion. Why he shouldn't have to use these gender pronouns. And the university or student activists or the other side, the opposite side, they'll have an argument to put forward about why he should use these pronouns. So yeah, we'll find the arguments, we'll figure out if they're valid, and again, we'll decide, is this an important issue? Should we pay attention to this? And how can we come to a decision? Okay, so just some simple stuff, but we'll have to pull the arguments out first. Before we begin, do you have any questions? No? Okay. So, the article, I'm just going to double check just to make sure. I'm fairly certain it's in Microsoft Teams, but I'll just make sure that I haven't forgotten. Okay, it is in fact there. So the title of the article is this: He says freedom, they say hate. So I'll give you some time to read through that and again try to find the two arguments, Jordan Peterson's and kind of everybody else. Okay? All right. Let's do this. Okay, people, how's it going so far? Are you through? Are you almost through?
Just highlighting
Okay. I feel like there's a few things that would help you to know, to understand what's going on here. Does anyone know what political correctness is or what it means?
to use the correct language.
To use the correct language?
To avoid being offensive to
Exactly, right? So here, I just pulled this up on, where is it? There. Nope, sorry, that's something else I was looking at. This, yeah, so it's exactly as Rafay says, right? It's using language to avoid offending certain groups of people. The only thing we should add into that definition is the fact that, can I scroll down here? Wait a minute. Let me see, where was it? Okay, maybe it's not there. The only other thing we should add in here is the idea that, nope. The only other thing that we should add in here is the idea that it is, sometimes people make fun of political correctness, right? They feel that, that you have to tiptoe around and avoid, offending anyone, and, you can't sort of say what you mean. And so political correctness is often kind of made fun of. And so, yes, is it legitimately important to use language to avoid offending people? Yeah, it absolutely is. But there's a lot of people out there who like roll their eyes at political correctness and like, oh, now I just can't say how things really are because, PC, politically correct. So some people have a little bit of, they make fun of it, okay? So there's kind of both sides to that political correctness idea, okay? Does anyone know what tenure is? They say that Jordan Peterson is a tenured professor. Do you know what having tenure is? No? Okay. So when you're a professor at a university, usually when you get hired as a new professor with a new PhD, hopefully you get a tenure track position and you have about 7 years or so. Okay, so in those 7 years, you'll teach a bunch of classes, you'll publish as many articles as you possibly can, and then at the end of those 7 years or so, usually the department will sit down and look at your record. And if they feel that if you have good teaching evaluations, if you have a lot of publications, if you're contributing to the field of, whatever you study, physics or whatever it is, if they feel that you're kind of a strong contender, they will give you tenure. And when you have tenure, you basically have a job for life, okay? So you basically cannot be fired unless you, break the law or do something horrendous, right? But basically the job is yours as long as you want it, okay? Is there one more thing? Is there anything else that came up there? Oh, academic freedom. Do you know what academic freedom is? No? Okay. So it's connected to this idea of tenure. So ideally, what we want universities to be is places of truth, right? And if you look at, the motto of all these universities in Latin, you'll usually see some sort of reference to truth, right? I know for University of Alberta, where I come from, I think the motto is whatsoever things are true. It's in Latin, of course, but so what we want people to be studying is we want them to be studying things and discovering the truth, right? Whatever the truth may be, right? Whether it's, maybe it's politically inconvenient or it's, it's not something we want to hear, but we want researchers to find the truth, right? We don't want them to tell us what they want to hear, what we want to hear. We don't want them just simply telling us what the government wants us to hear. We want them to say the truth, right? And so in order to do that, that's why we give them tenure. That's why we give them that job for life. so that they, if they discover something that is maybe politically unpopular, the government can't fire them, right? Or just close down the whole place, because we need them to say the truth, right? Whatever the truth happens to be, right? Yes, climate change is real, the whole planet's warming up, we're all screwed, right? Maybe not. But if that's the case, we want scientists to tell us that, right? And so again, we guarantee them a job so that they can, explore their research, come to conclusions, and they know their job is not on the line when they do it. Does that make sense? Okay. So, let's go. Well, let's dig into this here. So, we've got two arguments. Which one do you want to start with? Do you want to start with Jordan Peterson's argument or with Jordan's argument? Okay. Let's start with our friend Jordan here. Oops, my timer's starting again. Let's start with Jordan. So, what's his conclusion? What is the thing that he wants us to believe, or that he's kind of arguing? Again, I think I gave it away earlier, but that's okay. Okay, so the conclusion of Jordan's argument is that no, I shouldn't have to use these pronouns. And of course, as good critical thinkers, we should ask ourselves, well, why, Jordan? Why should you not have to do that? Okay, so he thinks it's dangerous language, right? And he doesn't trust the people who created it. Rafay said that it compels what?
The use of a particular kind of ideological language.
Okay. It compels a certain kind of ideological language. All right. What else do we have?
He said like the people who formulated the language, they're power mad people who use comparison.
Okay. So he doesn't trust that this language is somehow has a negative ideology. He doesn't trust the people who created this language, and then those people are apparently power mad. What does it mean? Yeah, like they're trying to grab power by any means necessary, right? They're trying to take power over things. Okay. Does he mention who these people might be?
Yeah, he points the finger at you of these human resources and very vice president.
Okay, so it's the Human Resources Department and the Equity Vice President. Okay. All right, good. What else does he say about this language? Why shouldn't he have to use it? So the language compels a certain type of ideology. The people who created this language are power mad, and he doesn't trust them. Those people are apparently the HR department and the equity vice president of the university. Anything else?
So like, is his idea of not using the language because if he uses the language, the pronoun, it gives them more power.
Okay, yeah. So we'll be kind of doing what they want. They will be doing what they want. We'll be actually empowering these power mad people by using this language. Okie dokie. Anything else?
He said the bill C-16 was passed. It would force people to use the pronoun.
Yeah, so the Canada Human Rights Act, now this isn't the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, which is in the Constitution. This is kind of a step lower. But yeah, it adds in, that you may not discriminate against people based on their gender identity, right? And so they added it into this Canadian Bill of Rights or whatever it is because it's easier to do. Changing the Constitution is actually much more difficult, or maybe it's not, but that's another story. Right, so the government is trying to create protections against discrimination for people with different gender identities, right? That's kind of the context, right? The background to this. He says something, or sorry, Nicole, what were you going to say a minute ago?
I was gonna ask what is accusation or how you can understand that when he was talking about the, he say that taking advantage or, that sentence, can you see that? I wanted to know what it means, that sentence.
Sorry, which sentence is it?
He say that she's taking advantage of class liberation collective, even though they're perfectly willing to push violence as a solution to social problems.
Right, okay. Let me just,
The argument is like,
yeah, let me just find that.
fourth paragraph at the end.
Okay. Oh, yes. So, okay. So he's referring to this equity vice president, right? Who's Kelly Hannah Moffat. So he's referring to her, saying that she's taking advice from the Black Liberation Collective. So apparently they're an activist group who apparently are willing to push violence as a solution to social problems. So there's some background here, right? We would have to know who this kind of Black Liberation Collective here is. They reference one of its members wrote this poem, which, did anyone click on it and see where it leads? We don't have to look at it now, but if you click on it, it should, oh, it goes to a tweet. Okay. Oh, here it is. Well, I'll show it to you if it comes up. So this is the poem that Jordan is referring to. One second here. Good morning. Okay, having some technical difficulties here. There we go. So this is the kind of poem that that Jordan is referring to, right? And again, it's a bit of a background issue because it sounds like the equity vice president of the university, spoke to members of this Black Liberation Collective for, advice on creating an equitable environment at the university. One of the members of this Black Liberation Collective wrote this poem, right? It's not super friendly to white people, but yeah, I think in this case, let's go here. Where's my? There we go. So I think I don't know that that's necessarily part of his argument. I guess what that might be is him trying to prove his premise that there are power mad people behind all of this. I think that's maybe what that is, if that makes sense. Okay. Again, whether Black Liberation Collective is power mad or not is another story, but yeah, but that's kind of what he's saying. What else? What does he say about totalitarianism? Yeah. So totalitarian governments are governments that basically try to control every aspect of people's lives. Okay. So maybe you can think of North Korea, maybe Nazi Germany. Those are places where fascist Italy, where the government has tried to control every aspect of people's lives, right? To have total control. And what does Jordan say about it here? Okay, so he says, he equates the radical left with Marxists, who he says are no better than Nazis, and he won't be the tool of a murderous ideology. In an interview, he said he also believes political correctness could lead to totalitarianism. Okay? So using this kind of language apparently will lead to totalitarianism. We will wind up somehow with a authoritative Nazi-style government in Canada, apparently. Okie dokie. Any other pieces to Jordan Peterson's argument? I think that might be it, but just there may be something I've missed.
He said like once in a debate room, he used a wrong pronoun by mistake.
Say again?
Once in a debate room,
Yeah.
he used the wrong pronoun
Okay.
by mistake, and he had no intention to be rude.
Okay.
So he said, there is this strong compulsion to be polite and not so purposefully offend someone, and I think that polite compulsion is being hijacked by power mad leftists.
Okay.
And in fact, I'm certain of it.
Okay. That is true. So he thinks, again, the power mad thing, that language is being used as a way to gain power. Basil's mentioned this here. He wants to exercise freedom of speech. Okay. So in Canada here, we do have free speech, right? You can kind of say what you want, but there are also limits to that. Have we talked about this yet? No, I don't think we have. So in our Charter of Rights and Freedoms, Canada's Charter of Rights and Freedoms, you have the ability you have free speech. You can say what you want, right? Justin Trudeau's an idiot. I can say that on YouTube, and the government agents will not show up to drag me away. That's great, right? But there are limits to my speech, right? What kind of things can I not say? Yes, but it's kind of a little more extreme than that. And we heard about it when we saw the documentary with Adam Pearson. What were they talking about? They were talking about what? Yes, but what was what kind of things were being said that couldn't be said, that were illegal, in fact? In the documentary, we were talking about hate speech, right? So I cannot say things that promote hatred toward a certain group. So you were right, Rafay. I was just trying to turn up the intensity on what you said. But yeah, so I can use my freedom of speech to say what I want, as long as I'm not promoting hatred towards certain groups of people, right? That I'm not allowed to do. So my rights have limits to them. What about his? So, is this is this limiting his freedom of speech? Or maybe said another way, is this hate speech? Is Jordan Peterson engaging in hate speech when he says, no, I'm not going to use these pronouns because I think they're created by power mad people who are trying to seize control or something? Is that hate speech?
He has no hate against the content of people. He just has some issue with the human resources.
Okay, so he doesn't seem to be expressing any hatred towards transgender people or gender fluid people. He just doesn't want to do what he's being told to do. Okay, so would you say hate speech? Maybe not. Not hate speech. Okay, so yeah, so Basil's saying he wants to exercise his freedom of speech, and this is probably within his right to say. Although, it just has to do with, transgender people and gender fluid people. So I don't know. It's a bit of a gray area, but I'd probably say no. I'd probably say it's not hate speech. Um, Definitely people's speech well, this is the thing. So not always, right? So you don't have to be polite to people, right? It's your, you have the right in Canada to be rude to whoever you want, right? People may not like you very much, but you can be rude to whoever you want. But you may not engage in hate speech, right? You may not generate or sort of spread hatred towards certain groups. That is not allowed. But what about his academic freedom? Is this a violation to his academic freedom? Because remember, he has the ability to do research and publish his findings, whatever those findings are, right? Because again, we want the truth from our scientists. We don't want them just telling us what they think we want to hear. But is this academic freedom? Is this a thing that he is studying? Is he studying gender pronouns?
Not really, but then when they just sent him the letter, that's when he got interested in it. Well,
Yeah, but again, is it his research topic? No. Okay, hang on. I think I might be getting.
Yeah, yes. Oh, yes.
Okay, but hang on. I'm getting a little ahead of myself here because we're almost getting into the other argument. So let's leave Jordan's argument for a second and let's talk about the other side. Okay, so the other side is saying that yes, Jordan, you need to use these pronouns if students or staff members ask you to use them. Why should we believe that? Why should he be using those pronouns? What's that? It's it's true, right? So his, where does it say it? Hang on. Ronald D'Souza here, who is a retired professor, he says that Peterson has a kind of liberating effect on prejudice, right? So speaking about his prejudices or sort of sharing them kind of creates space for more people to stand up and say, I don't agree with this either, right? So lots of people are kind of standing behind Jordan Peterson. There's rallies in support of him. There's been death threats towards transgender students on campus. So again, when somebody powerful speaks up, they kind of create space for others to jump in there as well, right? And again, you can do this positively or negatively. You can create a space to support people, or you can create a space where people will stand up and express their prejudice as well. And Ronald D'Souza here points out that Donald Trump is really good at this too, right? He expresses his prejudices and then everyone stands up and expresses theirs, right? So yeah, so supporting prejudice like this has kind of a multiplying effect. Other people will stand up and act this way as well. Why else? Why else should we use these pronouns? Why else should we use these pronouns? Huh. I thought this one would be the easier one. Would you like to take a little break and come back and then we'll look at the other side? Okay. Let's take a break. When we come back, we will look at the argument for using these pronouns, okay? Okay, and we're back. So, we have managed to come up with one of the arguments for this, from this paper, right? And so far we have Jordan Peterson's argument. He says that he shouldn't have to use these pronouns because they are, the language is, it's language created by, it's ideological language created by power-mad people, and if we use this language, we will empower those people and somehow lead to totalitarianism. Does that make any sense? I don't know. We could also say that he thinks it's, that it inhibits his freedom of speech, right? So here we have freedom of speech in Canada. You can say what you want for the most part. And Jordan Peterson is saying, yeah, I can say what I want, right? There might also be an element of academic freedom, right, in which professors are able to disseminate the results of their academic work, and they really can't be punished for that, right, as long as they are speaking the truth, right? And again, the academic community kind of polices itself, right? So if you publish a paper in the Journal of International whatever, right, and it's garbage because you haven't done your work right, the academic community is going to be all over you, right? They're going to be criticizing you. They're going to be writing papers saying such and such a paper was a disaster, and here's why the person is totally wrong, and blah, 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 blah. So the academic community is supposed to police itself. You need to speak the truth, right? And if you're wrong and you're publishing things, other academics are going to be all over you telling you you're wrong, right? So there might be an element of academic freedom here in which Jordan Peterson thinks that he can say these things because he's a professor, right? And he's allowed to do that. The other side of this, of course, is that he is not allowed, or he should use the pronouns that people ask him to. And why is that? Well, one reason is because when you express your prejudices, particularly when you're someone who people listen to, that creates the space for others to express their prejudice as well, right? And so we can see that here. As soon as he says, no, I don't think I'm going to use those pronouns because they're, created by power-mad people, suddenly we have all sorts of other people standing up and threatening the lives of transgender students, right? And having rallies where white supremacists and Hell's Angels show up, right? Do you know who Hell's Angels are? They're kind of like a motorcycle gang, but they're in organized crime, basically. So they're a gang, basically. They're a gang. So that's one premise, right? Why else should he use these pronouns that people request? Technology? How so? What? Oh, okay. Okay, good, because technology made no sense whatsoever. To acknowledge them? Okay. Why is that important to acknowledge them? Sorry, say again?
So they're aware that people respect them for who they are and they accept their existence.
Right, because using those pronouns shows acceptance, right? It shows that, we see you, right? That you are acknowledged, you are safe, we see you, we understand you, right? It's the same thing, that's why I don't call you John, right? Because that's not who you are. Why might that be important to acknowledge these people? To say to them that I see you, I acknowledge you, you are safe here.
It's important for a person to feel acknowledged.
Because what?
It's important for a person to feel acknowledged.
Yeah, it is important for a person to feel acknowledged, right? What do you think Jordan Peterson likes his students to call him? Professor or probably Dr. Peterson, right? Why would he want students to call him that?
He worked hard for his PhD.
Yeah, he worked hard for his PhD and he wants to be acknowledged, right? He wants to be called doctor or professor, right? So, I don't know. Maybe people can just call him Jordy when they come in. Hey, Jordy. Why else? Why else should we use these pronouns? Let me change the question a little bit. The university, slightly smaller power, the university has asked him to behave a certain way in class with students. Is the university allowed to do that? Is the college allowed to come to me and say, Mike, we expect you to behave a certain way in your class with your students? Yeah, I'm an employee here, right? And so the college has every right to create a code of conduct and say, Mike, you must follow these rules in class, which I do, right? Of course, I'm a professional, I would do it anyway, but there are rules, right? And the college is allowed to ask that of me because, yeah, I'm an employee here. We talked about hate speech. Is this hate speech? What he's saying?
I don't think so.
No, it's not quite, right? Like it's not. No,
It's just his issue with political correctness and people in the HR resources.
Yeah. So he's clearly got an issue with a few people here, and he's saying it. I don't know that he's necessarily spreading hate towards transgender people. Some people might take this as an opportunity to stand up and, engage in hate speech of their own. I don't think that he's doing it though. So it's not hate speech. But is this covered under academic freedom? Is gender or gender pronouns something that his work is about?
Yeah, his wife said that he's been doing that.
He what?
His wife said that he's been writing about it for a long time.
Right.
For at least a decade, and his views are new. He doesn't write things all the time. He never writes things different. It's just that this time he didn't.
Oh, okay. So he is, hang on just one second here.
Maybe he's a psych professor, right?
Yes. He's a psych professor. Here he is. Here he is, Jordan Peterson, professor, University of Social Psychology and Personality Psychology.
So let me correct that.
Yes.
He said he talks about it all the time, and it is for his trouble with political correctness.
Yeah, so he's got a long-standing sort of criticism of political correctness. Let's see, okay. So he's lecturing on mythology and psychology of religion. 2 online programs to help people understand themselves better, understanding myself. I don't see really anything about gender here or gender identities. So he's really,
He just has a very strong opinion about it.
yeah, so he's got some opinions about this, and you may disagree with me on this, and it's okay to disagree with me, but I would say that this is not covered under academic freedom, because this isn't his work, right? He's digging into mythology and the psychology of religion. That's his academic work, right? So he can say whatever his research leads him to say, and, he cannot be touched for it, really. But I don't know that this falls under academic freedom.
I think this is just freedom of speech.
This is freedom of speech, and it's the right of the university to ask their professors to behave in certain ways, right? Is it important for students to feel safe in a classroom? Absolutely. Is it important for students to feel respected in a classroom? 100%, right? And again, can the university ask professors to do this without stepping on their academic freedom? Right? They're not telling Jordan what to say about the psychology of anything, really. They're just saying, look, we would like you to treat your students with respect and create a safe space for them, and this is how you do that. Right? Again, you can, my bias here is coming through. I do have a view on how this works, or on what this argument is.
What is your view?
Well, I'm not going to say it yet, but you can probably get a sense of how I'm feeling. Okay. Hang on one second. I'm missing a slide here that I want to put on the screen next. So just give me 1 second. I'm just going to retrieve it. I think it's here. No, it's not there. Hang on. Here it probably is. Okay. Okay. Let me just put this on the screen for us to look at. Good. Okay. So here's Jordan Peterson's argument, okay? So he says he shouldn't have to use these gender neutral pronouns as the university requests, right? He says being compelled to use this language somehow leads to totalitarianism. He says ideological language empowers these power-mad people, who I guess are HR and the equity president or vice president. Being compelled to use this language might violate his academic freedom, and it might violate his right to free speech, okay? Now, here's, I think, our other argument. So, university staff and students, so I've got a little typo in there, can be asked to use these gender pronouns, or should use these gender pronouns if students ask, right? And why? Well, I think people have a right not to be discriminated against, right? The Canadian Charter of Rights says that. I'm sure that the university charter says that. Discrimination of and non-acceptance of transgender people emboldens others to discriminate as well, right? And we saw that, right? When he speaks up, it creates space for others to express their prejudice as well, right? And again, another premise might be that this doesn't violate academic freedom and it doesn't violate his freedom of speech. So, oops. Let's evaluate this argument. First of all, do these premises logically support the conclusion? Are these reasons why he might not want to use gender neutral pronouns? Would you not want to use gender neutral pronouns if that language led to totalitarianism? I don't know. Does anyone want a totalitarian government? I don't. So, okay, if using that language led to that, that would be bad, right? So I would say that's a reason not to use it. Would we want to give power to power-mad people? Well, it doesn't sound like a very good idea. So if using that language led to that, then we wouldn't want to do that. Okay, go ahead. We'll get to that in a second. I'm just going through the steps here, but I know what you're saying. So would we not want to use this language if it violated the academic freedom of an academic? Yeah, right? And similarly, would we not want to use this language if it violated people's freedom of speech? Yeah, we want to protect freedom of speech. That's important, right? So all of these are logical support for the conclusion. They're good reasons for not using this language. But of course, the second part is, are they true? So is it true that using this language can lead to totalitarianism? Yeah, is that true? Victoria, what do you think? You're like, yeah. So he's making a big leap here, right? This is a, so when I said that, when I made my argument about coffee and I said that coffee was delicious, that was or let's say it was inexpensive. That's an easy reason why someone might drink coffee, and it's pretty intuitive to us that it's true, right? Like that's intuitively, we kind of know that, yeah, $1.50 for a coffee is just not expensive, right? But this is not really intuitively true, right? It's like, what do you mean, right? How does calling someone by a certain set of pronouns lead to a dictatorship in Canada? That's quite a walk, right, from one to the other. So maybe this is legitimate, but like without an explanation, I think it's hard to know that that's true, right? Does using this language empower power-mad people? I don't know. Is human resources, are they like power-mad? Is there some sort of like conspiracy for HR to take over are they sitting there like scheming of world domination, petting their cat? Welcome, Mr. Bond, right? No, that sounds ridiculous, right? Can using this language empower power-mad people? Well, I don't know. Again, it's not intuitively true, right? It's like, what are you talking about? Like, what do you mean, right? Is it true that using these pronouns violates his academic freedom? Yeah, so again, you can disagree with me if you want. I'm going to say no. I'm going to say that his academic freedom does not cover what's happening here, right? Does it limit his right to free speech? No, right? And again, he doesn't even have to agree with multiple genders. He can just say, yeah, there's two genders, men and women, and that's it. He's allowed to say that, right? But the university can still ask him to do things as an employee, right? So the university is not trying to limit his freedom of speech. They are trying to ask him to behave in a certain way toward his students, right? Over which he has power, right? Let's remember that too, that in a classroom situation, the professor has power and students have less. Okay, so his premises logically support his conclusion, but are his premises true? It's tough to know how they are, right? And again, maybe you think that his academic freedom covers this, maybe you don't. The first two are definitely in need of an explanation, right? They are not intuitively true. And so, is this a good argument? Not so much, right? Which is kind of shocking because he's a professor, right? Should he not be able to put together a better argument than this? I would think so, right? Arguments are something that academics use all the time. He should be able to put together one that is logically sound, and I would suggest that this one is not. But let's move on to the next one here. Rafay? It's what? Well, let's hang on to that. Let's come back to that because that's worth talking about. But let's just analyze this one really quickly. So, are these premises, this is the other side, of course, are these premises reasons why we should believe the conclusion? Should we use gender-neutral pronouns because people have the right not to be discriminated against? Yeah, right? Should we use this language because, you know, expressing prejudice creates a space for others to express their prejudice? Yeah. Should we use this language if it doesn't violate academic freedom? Sure. Should we use it if it doesn't violate people's right to free speech? Yeah. And again, are these all true? Do people have the right not to be discriminated against? Yes, they do. Does discrimination and non-acceptance of transgender people embolden others to express their prejudices? Yeah, the article said as much, right? Is it true that using this language doesn't violate academic freedom? I would say yes. Does using this language not violate people's right to free speech? Yeah, it doesn't violate that either. So do we have a valid argument here? I think we do, right? We have premises that logically support the conclusion, and we have premises that are true, right? We know these to be true. And so, to Rafai's point, I think your question can be summed up by, like, what's his deal, right? Like, why is he making this argument? Especially, you know, I know we only have a few minutes left here. Have you ever heard this expression, choose the hill you want to die on? What does that one mean? Choose where you in a metaphoric way. Yeah. So if you're going to, you know, if you're in an argument about something or a conflict, is it worth the consequences of fighting it out to the end? Right? So again, this is a pronoun issue. Why has he decided that this is a hill he wants to die on? Why is he going to make such a big fuss about this rather than say, you know what? I don't think there's, you know, I think all of this, you know, third gender stuff, I think it's all ridiculous, but whatever, I'll just say it. It's no inconvenience to me, I'll just say it. What? Okay. Okay. What do you think his conflict is with either HR or with political correctness? What do you think he doesn't like about it? Maybe. I suspect he is very well paid, Ben, so you probably don't have to worry about that. But, okay, maybe. That's true. That's true. What's that? Yeah, maybe he doesn't like to be told what to do. Nobody does, really, admittedly, but doesn't like to be told what to do, maybe. What's been the effect of this for him? Well, what the effect? How is this kind of little battle that he's engaged in, how has it changed his life?
Oh, he's famous now.
He's famous, yeah. People are watching his YouTube videos. What's going on with his Patreon account?
He went from 3,000 to 12,000.
$14,000 a month. People are dumping into his Patreon account to, you know, do videos or research or whatever other stuff he's doing. He's hired a camera crew to film his lectures. Yeah, I'm still working on that one, by the way.
He's doing reruns, right? He's getting to 11 for the world.
Yeah, like I say, before this pronoun thing, nobody knew who this guy was, right? We know who he is now, but again, unless you took his class, and nobody, right? There's lots of professors across Canada that nobody's ever heard of, unless you take their class. So here, now he's a bit of a celebrity, right? But what about the people, what about transgender people? What's been the effect for them? Yeah, some students got death threats. How do you think they feel on campus now? Scared, yeah? Maybe a little less safe than they used to, right? And so it's so interesting, right? Because at the beginning, hang on here. At the beginning of the article, where does he say it? Oh, it's on the first page, maybe the fourth or fifth paragraph down. He says it was particularly stressful for the first 2 weeks because the controversy was generating a lot of flack. I got 2 letters from the university reminding him that free speech had to be made in accordance with. Okay, so he got 2 letters from the university. I'm sure they were very politely worded, right? But meanwhile, you know, transgender students are getting death threats, right? So I'm sure it was stressful for you, Jordan, but imagine how stressful it was for the groups who are more vulnerable, right? Think about, shoot, we're out of time. Okay, last thing I'll say. What social groups does Jordan belong to? He's what? Yeah, he's probably he's upper middle class, or he's reasonably wealthy. What's his race? White, male, Canadian, English speaker, you know, tenured professor at a prestigious university in Canada. He's got power, right? These other people don't, right? They are transgender people, and so they have less power in society. They already suffer discrimination and prejudice. And so isn't it interesting how he's kind of gone to battle with them, and who's benefited from it? Well, he has, right? And they have not. Okay, that is all the time we have today. I'm sorry, I wish we had about 5 or maybe 10 more minutes with this, but pack it up. I will see you tomorrow. We'll finish this Jordan Peterson thing, and then we'll go on to, I think, advertising. Advertising. It's always something new. Okay. Pack it up, people. Good work today. I'll see you tomorrow, okay?